Hello friends, in today's video we'll be talking about humerus. Humerus is the bone of the arm. It is the longest bone of the upper limb. It has an upper end, lower end and a shaft. First we'll talk about the upper end. This is the head. The head is directed medially, backwards and upwards. It articulates with the glenoid cavity of the scapula to form the shoulder joint. As you can see, it is much larger than the glenoid cavity. It forms the 1/3 part of the spear. And the line separating the head from the rest of the upper end is called as anatomical neck. Now this is the lesser tubercle. It is an elevation which is directed anteriorly. This is another elevation which is known as the greater tubercle. Posteriorly, it has 3 impressions: upper, middle and lower impressions. This is the bicipital groove or intertubercular sulcus. It is a groove which separates the lesser tubercle from the greater tubercle. Lesser tubercle medially and the anterior part of the greater tubercle laterally. It has medial lip and lateral lip, which are the prolongations of the lesser and the greater tubercles respectively. Now coming to the shaft. The shaft is rounded in the upper half of the part and it is triangular in the lower half. It has 3 borders and 3 surfaces. It's the anterior border, the medial border and the lateral border. The anteromedial surface, the anterolateral surface and the posterior surface. Coming to the anterior border, the upper 1/3 part is formed by the lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus, and in the middle part it forms the anterior margin of the deltoid tuberosity, and the lower 1/3 part is rounded and smooth. The lateral border is barely traceable in the upper part. It is only traceable in the lower end where it forms a ridge which is known as a lateral supracondylar ridge. And the middle part, it is interrupted by the radial or the spiral groove. Now the medial border. The medial border, the upper part is formed by the medial lip of the intertubercular sulcus, and in the middle part it is rough, and at the lower end it forms the ridge known as the medial supracondylar ridge. Coming to the surfaces, anterolateral surface lies between the anterior border and the lateral border. The upper half of the part is covered by the deltoid muscle, and a little above the middle part there's a V-shaped tuberosity which is known as the deltoid tuberosity. And slightly behind the tuberosity runs the radial groove downwards and forwards. The anteromedial surface lies between the anterior border and the medial border. The upper part is formed by the floor of the intertubercular sulcus, and at the middle there is a nutrient foramen near to the medial border. The posterior surface lies between the lateral border and the medial border, and there's an oblique ridge in the upper part, and the middle part is crossed by the radial groove. Now coming to the lower end. The lower end is expanded from side to side. It has the articular part and the non-articular part. First, about the articular part. The articular part includes the capitulum, which articulates with the head of the radius. The second articular part is the trochlea. It is a pulley-shaped surface which articulates with the trochlear notch of the ulna. The medial edge of the trochlea is projected down 6 millimeter more than the lateral edge, resulting in the formation of the carrying angle. Now coming to the non-articular part, this is the medial epicondyle. Medial epicondyle is a bony projection which can be easily felt on our body, and this is the lateral epicondyle, which is smaller than the medial epicondyle, and there's a ridge just above it which is known as the lateral supracondylar ridge. Similar ridge is also present on medially, which is known as the medial supracondylar ridge. So anteriorly there are two depressions, one above the trochlea and one above the capitulum. The one which is above the trochlea is known as the coronoid fossa, which accommodates the coronoid process of the ulna when the elbow is flexed. The one which is above the capitulum is known as the radial fossa, and it accommodates the head of the radius when the elbow is flexed. Likewise, there is also a depression on the posterior aspect above the trochlea, which is known as the olecranon fossa. It accommodates the olecranon process of the ulna when the elbow is extended. Now side determination. Three features through which you can determine. One is the head is rounded and the lower end is flattened from before backwards. And the second is the head is directed medially and backwards and upwards. And the third feature being the lesser tubercle, which is directed anteriorly. So looking at these features, we can say that this humerus belongs to the left side. Now coming to the muscle attachments. First we'll talk about the insertions. The multipinnate subscapularis is inserted into the lesser tubercle here. And like I said earlier, there are three impressions on the greater tubercle. So the supraspinatus is inserted into the uppermost impression. Infraspinatus is inserted into the middle impression. And teres minor is inserted into the lower impression. Pectoralis major is inserted into the lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus. Teres major is inserted into the medial lip of the intertubercular sulcus. And in between the two majors, there is a latissimus dorsi, which is inserted into the floor of the intertubercular sulcus. There's a trick to remember this, lady between the two majors, they say, because latissimus dorsi is between the pectoralis major and teres major. So that way you can remember this. And the deltoid is inserted into the deltoid tuberosity. And coracobrachialis is inserted into the rough middle part of the medial border. The contents of the intertubercular sulcus are the tendon of the long head of the biceps and its synovial sheath, and the ascending branch of the anterior circumflex humeral artery. Now coming to the muscle origins. Brachialis arises from the lower half of the anterolateral and the anteromedial part of the shaft. And brachioradialis arises from the upper 2/3 of the lateral supracondylar ridge, and from the lower 1/3 part of the lateral supracondylar ridge arises the extensor carpi radialis longus, and from the lower 1/3 of the medial supracondylar ridge arises the pronata teres. This is the common flexor origin. So all the superficial flexor muscles together, they arise through a common origin from the anterior surface of the medial epicondyle. So all the superficial extensor muscles, they have a common origin on the lateral epicondyle. This is the common extensor origin, and the medial epicondyle has a common flexor origin. And the posterior surface of the lateral epicondyle gives origin to the anconeus. The lateral head of the triceps brachii arises from an oblique ridge on the upper part of the posterior surface above the radial groove, and the medial head arises from the lower part of the posterior surface below the radial groove. Now coming to the ligaments, the capsular ligament of the shoulder joint is attached to the anatomical neck except on the lower part where it dips down to about 2 centimeters to also include shaft within the joint cavity. The line is also interrupted at the intertubercular sulcus to provide an aperture through which the long head of the biceps leaves the joint cavity. The capsular ligament of the elbow joint is attached to the lower end such that it reaches the above the radial and the coronoid fossa anteriorly and the olecranon fossa posteriorly, so that all these are included within the joint cavity, and medially it passes in between the trochlea and the medial epicondyle, and laterally it passes in between the lateral epicondyle and the capitulum. Now coming to the clinical anatomy, there are 3 nerves that are directly related to the humerus and therefore they are liable to injury. One is the axillary nerve at the surgical neck, the radial nerve in the radial groove, and the ulnar nerve behind the medial epicondyle. Now if we talk about the common sites of the fracture, there are 3 sites. One is the surgical neck, the shaft is the second one, and the supracondylar region is the third one. The supracondylar fracture is common in young adults, like a fall on the outstretched hand might lead to the fracture, and the lower fragment is usually displaced backwards. So therefore it might cause injury to the median nerve, and this fracture may also lead to the Volkmann's ischemic contracture and myositis ossificans. And dislocation is also very common, wherein the head of the humerus dislocates inferiorly. The humerus has a poor blood supply, especially at the junction of the upper 1/3 and the lower 2/3. So this is the site where the fractures are very common, and they usually show delayed union or non-union. So friends, this was about humerus in detail. So if you have learned something through the video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.